Yeah, I mean, if it's technical, I mean, I'll say, that this, sometimes I'll say this should all be in shadow, or, if it's lighting ideas. Uh, if it's, they don't, no, I don't get very carried away. I don't say that this should be a certain kind of crane to do that shot. I say this is the shot, and then we work out how we do it. The pig is dead. When we did, there were sequences that aren't in Munchausen that got very complicated, where it was, some of it was a real set, some was a model, some was painting, some had actors in, and I'd eventually put that information in there. I don't always do it when I'm doing the storyboard. When I'm first doing the storyboard, I'm just trying to do the film, and then we start breaking it down and putting more detail in it.
I'd like to have your comment on the relation between storyboarding and bande dessinée, comic books and stories.
Yeah, I think my storyboards tend to be a bit like bande dessinée a lot of the time, because it's my background. I keep always seeing things in comic book form, except the difference is that with comic books you're not limited to a frame the size of a film. I mean, good comic books are constantly changing the frame from a horizontal to a vertical to little spots, so you've got a lot more flexibility. But sometimes I actually watch my drawings and think, I'm just doing a comic strip here, this isn't a film at all. I think, what's interesting is coming from a comic book tradition, working with Harvey Kurtzman, because I think Harvey was the one that really began using comic books as a way of using movie techniques in comic books, tracking shots, pullback, zooms in, and that's, I think, why I was first attracted to his stuff. It was just like watching movies. Now everybody does it all the time, and it's and particularly in Watchmen, it's incredible. I mean, that's one of the they've almost made it like a film. They've planned it that way.
About Watchmen, what will be the difference through the comic book and the film?
There was a script that was written by Sam Hamm, who that started the project. Charles has just rewritten the script, and now the next job is for me to start the storyboard, and then we'll be away. I hope we're going to be able to, distill Watchmen to the essence of the thing and still hold on to that and have all the characters and the same story and get many of the same points across. It'll always be different because in the comic books it has a lot of time and a lot of ability to just go into detail upon detail upon detail into the past and the future. And a film is a terrible condensation. We've got the script down to about, it could be 2.5 hours. And I don't know what else to take out, and yet we've only got, I would say, half the comic book in there. And it's terrifying that, films are very terribly simple things. They're much more simplistic than I think most people give them credit for. Having been an animator and having grown up watching Walt Disney and all the animated films, what I like about them is they free you from naturalism. You don't have to be, it doesn't have to be naturalistic. Extraordinary things can happen, and that's what I've sort of moved into more and more, trying to do what other people would do in animation, only in live action. I don't see the limitations that probably most other film directors would. Because they wouldn't, number one, they wouldn't know how to do it, so they wouldn't think about it in some cases. Drawing always is the thing that actually just gives me more pleasure. I mean, I've gotten very weird over the last several years. I don't write anymore. I can't even write a letter. I can't write. Words, I don't like them anymore. I don't like the whole process of writing. I'd rather get on a telephone and talk to somebody or draw a picture. But to actually sit down and construct sentences and it's gotten very, very difficult for me.
For instance, did it happen that you created something through drawing the storyboard that was hard to put into words for the actual script? I mean,
I don't think it's hard. It's just it requires a lot more words. You've really got to write and write and write, describing how, the shadows there and how the textures is. And people, when they're reading scripts, don't want to sit there and have to read all this rubbish about how that's, the keystone in the proscenium arch is hanging down, which is, sort of symbolic of the state of the theatre that's precariously hanging, and collapse at any moment. Put that stuff in there, so we draw a little picture. Because the scripts would become like a Tolstoy novel if I started describing everything. What do we have here? This is like coming over the escape from the town, which is actually better than what we had, but there used to be a fight with a colonel who ended up hanging at the top of the theater. Like I say, craning upwards or craning down. I know the shot's going to have movement in it. And so we're craning down from the Baron. And I know that balloon is going to be static. It's going to be hanging, and the camera's going to do the action. When he dropped Sally before he dumped her out, and she ended up hanging on a cross on top of the church, but that got cut out. And he threw an anchor down and hooked onto the steeple as the cross is bending, and he's pulling himself in, which is actually very nice. But we, again, ran out of time and money, and so that went. Shots like coming over the battlement, that top shot looking down, it's all, I always planned to be doing that. It was this shot, a sense of vertigo as you go over the edge of something. And so we get that, and sailing off, it's all there. That's the danger. If you become too precise, and everybody, they're just doing what's already down there. There's no room for them to be creative. And luckily my things, the storyboards are become looser and looser, so it's not a threat to people. They can just say, there's a man there, he's got two legs, yeah, it's okay, so we can now start working. It's a balance, it's always there. People need to feel that they have enough room to really contribute. Good people do, bad people don't. Bad people are quite happy to just do exactly what they're told, but they don't want to work with those people. So good people have to have enough room to do what they do. And it's always that balance you try to maintain. I try to give them the illusion that they're being creative, and they try to give me the illusion that I've thought of everything. And we're all lying to each other all the time. When I'm working, I find it sometimes I'm just the opposite of what I'm like when I do interviews. I don't speak much when I'm making. It's like I make a film, and I do this, and I draw. That's what it's like that, and it's only afterwards when I have to talk about what I've done that I just talk and talk and talk and talk. But the drawings are so simple. I can just that.
For instance, when you get in touch with the people, what you give them is the script first, and
yeah, you give them the script first, and then you sort of come in with production designs and costume designs, and then we've got the storyboard there, and I can talk through, this is the way we're doing this. It was interesting on Munchausen, because at the beginning, when we got the money, and all the information was there. It was all in storyboard form, it was everything. And so when it started going over budget, I said, well, it was always been there like that. Nobody's changed anything. Nobody's added to it. All we've done is taken things away. And obviously nobody bothered to look at what was down there. They didn't read the script, nor did they look at the storyboard. Or did they look at Dante Ferretti's production designs, because they're far more elaborate than what we have on screen. And it's just a very weird thing in the world of cinema. The people with the money and most of the producers aren't interested in that. They're just interested in big ideas, 25 billion, that. And At least the producers I've tended to work with have been like that. The people that do take a concern are like the line producer and myself and all the heads of department. We all worry about these things. And we all seem to know what we're getting into, and it's the people who actually have the money and should be in control who somehow don't pay attention. We keep telling them we're making the biggest film in the world. They don't believe it. The good people in films, everybody can really be a director, I'm convinced. And if you're working with good set designers, they're thinking about how it's all going to work. If you're working with good costume designers, they're thinking about the characters and how things move. And I don't know, I think directing is a bit of a con, frankly. I think an awful lot of directors do very little and take a lot of credit. And I don't think it's that difficult to be a director. To be a good director is something else, but to be a director, I don't think it's difficult.